Will the planning director please take roll call?
Commissioner Morse,
Present.
Commissioner Vatra,
Here.
Commissioner Targ is absent, Vice Chair Krasinski is absent, and Chair Brothers.
I'm present.
We have a quorum.
I got a phone call from Nicholas and he is on his way from his San Francisco office. But we have a quorum, so we will get underway. The first thing I want to say just personally is thank you, and even those who are missing, for your attendance 2 weeks in a row and your really good works last week at that joint session on the safety element. I really appreciated the work by all of you and your dedication to the town. I haven't asked the planning director, but I think it's safe to say we probably won't meet again next week, so we won't go for 3 weeks in a row. Okay, first thing on the agenda, is there anybody, there's nobody in the schoolhouse. Is there anybody online who would like to make a comment about something that's not on the agenda tonight? Raise your hand if you're online, please.
I don't see any hands online.
Okay. Public comment is closed. The agenda item for tonight is the report of the subcommittee on bylaws and code of activities for the planning commission. Doug and I were the subcommittee. Probably even before you guys, Doug and Karen got on the subcommittee, this project started when John Golden was still chair. So I'm glad that we're finally getting it to a point where I hope that the end is in sight, hopefully soon. But by way of background, about a year and a half ago, the first drafts were circulated. That was when we didn't have staff at the town council. And then May, a year ago, the document came to the planning commission and we took all of those comments, and those comments have been incorporated into the draft that you'll see today. Then once they, are you planning director? That's what I'm calling you. Once the planning director got here, she took it a little bit under her wing and had the lawyer look at it. And Catherine did so, and her comments have been incorporated in the draft that's here today. It came off of my computer, so I will admit to a few minor glitches in what's presented to you today. And that's what's presented to you today in writing is the basis of our agenda. But Doug and I, as the subcommittee, met today because we wanted to look at it one more time, and we have about 5 changes, which I would propose to put on the table, and then I'll ask for public comment. And these changes include some of our observations from Ronnie's written comments. And I think by doing it that way, we may short circuit some comments from other members. The first change we would make was at the top of the second page. The sentence reads something: traditionally, these offices are filled by the most senior members of the commission at the time of an annual election. There's controversy about whether that's always in the fall. So we propose to delete typically held in the fall and let the sentence go on to say, and rotate collegially amongst the members. I should say one more thing by way of introduction. I think I speak for Doug. I know I speak for Doug on some of this, and I think I speak for him on all of this. We're about the only community that we've found in the whole Bay Area that does not already have some sort of planning commission bylaws. There is a state code section which basically requires planning commissions to have some implementation rules, which I think these bylaws qualify as. So I think it's important for us to do our best today to keep this moving. So back to the changes from the subcommittee. This is change number 2 in section 2.4. and this does relate to a comment that Ronnie made. It says, when no quorum exists at the time of an announced meeting of the commission, the chair or vice chair shall confirm that no meeting will be convened. We thought we would add, and I checked Robert's Rules of Order, this is fine, shall consider a short delay before determining that no meeting will be held. So if we didn't have a quorum, somebody would give 10 minutes if we knew somebody was coming. So that's the purpose of that change. Third change on the very top in section 3.0, at the very top of, we need to add pagination to this. So at the very top of the next page, it says meetings shall be available live for remote attendance by members of the public. We're going to delete live. It seems like available remote is redundant. Then down at section 3.2 in the middle of that same page, the first two sentences stay in 3.2, but the third sentence that begins commissioners, that's actually where the break should be for section 3.3. Like I said, it came off my computer. It means there were errors. And then the other change I think we discussed is to delete the parenthetic Brown Act so that it says commissioners are allowed to attend meetings remotely as allowed under California law, because there have been some other laws besides the Brown Act that affect remote attendance. Moving on to section 5, the last words of the last line will, we don't know where they came from, will be deleted. So it should say, upon adoption, these bylaws shall be posted on the town website, and there should be an and made available to all extant and later appointed commissioners, period. And then delete the comment submitted to the town council for comment. It's our document. Again, there are some comments about this, and the council would have jurisdiction if they choose to review these, but it's not our job to send it there. So those are the bylaws. Just because I want to have public comment before I open this to further comments from the commissioners, I'm going to provide the changes that the subcommittee proposes for the addendum to the bylaws, which is roles and responsibilities of commissioners. In line 2, it says maintain long-term vision. We're going to add the word a, long-term vision. In the section legal and ethical framework, as an appointed body, we're going to delete each commissioner must comply with, and instead state the Brown Act applies to the commissioners. That was a wording change, really. In the next paragraph, we've used the abbreviation FPPC, and we want to include Fair Political Practices Commission instead. These are cleanup. Next page, there's no comments from the subcommittee on 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then you get to 6. And the subcommittee did not intend to include the introductory letter as part of this package. So the subcommittee, and that was my lack of clarity to Sarah. So we're going to add the sentence here that says new commissioners will be provided with on-board training and orientation by the planning director. And then associated with that, like I said, we will remove that letter from the packet that we're voting on. And the final changes are competencies and best practices. Subjectively, I'll read the whole sentence. The role of a commissioner involves balancing many interests, including community needs, individual property rights, and strong adherence to. Because it's controversial, we're going to delete values of the town and state instead, and this is Ronnie's wording. We wanted to change it, but his wording was good. So it will say adherence to the town's general plan, ordinances, policy, policies, and applicable legal standards. And with that, we have the proposal from the subcommittee. Everybody good? And then I think I need to ask for public comment, but if you have any clarifications on that, I'm happy to take that.
I
have,
I have one question or comment too that we had talked a little bit about is the address is in 3.0
Yes.
and it seems like the town, I would say in general, has a conflict of it, whether it's 775 Portola Road or 765. Our package that we get always says 765, but the historical records say 775. So somehow we need to sort that out. It may be not
Thank you.
so important for this particularly, but
The schoolhouse in its historic designation is 775. And that's what we put in here because that's where we meet. But there had people questioned us on that. I don't know if it's on the map or where else. Okay. Which is the towns that, because that's the, oh, I see, right up here. You said historic schoolhouse and you've got the address wrong. You've got the town hall address. Thank you, Doug. Duly noted. Any other clarifications before I open this to public comment?
yes, I had one question, which is follow on to Councilmember Flynn's question. So it's really a question probably for Catherine. I don't think this document covers how, if we have a vacancy and how a new person would be appointed and how that 4-year term would work. And wouldn't that be something that's really in the realm of the town council to decide how they cover the vacancy? And it's not really for us to decide that. She was commenting on it's, you know, maybe somebody doesn't want to be here for just a year or, but it's really out of our realm.
Correct. The commission is appointed, commissioners are appointed by the council, and that would be up to them in terms of the procedures around that. I can't remember off the top of my head whether the committee and commission handbook addresses this topic. But in any event,
Yeah.
ultimately, yes, this would be a council decision.
When we discussed it previously, we expressed a preference, which is not binding necessarily in here, but we expressed a preference for replacing a member with a new 4-year term rather than getting into this issue of trying to figure out how many days were left in someone's term. And partly we did that because initially, before Sarah got here, we didn't even know we still don't even know all the starting days of terms. So I don't know how to handle that. I think what you said is not inconsistent with what's in here. Okay,
Right. I think it's up to if Rebecca wants to take it on.
Yeah.
As she has that prerogative to do that.
okay, I'd like to get public comment and then we can have further discussion of everything in here. Is there anybody in the schoolhouse or online who would like to make public comment on these bylaws?
There's one person online called Zoom user, and I'll allow you to talk now.
Hi, Linda, it's Dana. Can you hear me?
Yes,
Am I on? Okay, good. I'm wondering, especially being chair of ASCC also, about agendas. And does that come into this work that you're doing? That our commissions have legally binding, what we do is legally binding. And so I hope that your agendas are all, that you are the author of your agendas. And if there are any changes that you are always consulted, I feel the same way about ASCC. But that decides what you're going to be talking about in a given meeting. Thank you.
thank you. That's an excellent comment. It's not addressed in the bylaws, but it's a good comment maybe to consider. Any other public comments?
No one else online.
Okay. I'll open this up then or I turned off my phone. I don't know how we're doing with Nicholas. For further comments and discussion. Karen, since Doug and I are the subcommittee, I think the floor is yours.
Yes, and
Commissioner Vatra.
I like that you really addressed everything that both Ronnie and I had already. The only other thing that I was not crazy about is 2.3. When we're appointing special subcommittees, is that really the chair doing that, or is that really the commission? Who should be the subject? I would think the chair doesn't actually do the appointing. Who actually does the appointing in that situation?
Well, it was worded this way probably because that was the model that I took it from, which may have been Palo Alto. But to me, since it requires a majority vote of the commission, I think it's an appropriate activity for the chair. If the commission as a whole is appointing a subcommittee, who's the subcommittee report to? Things like that.
Oh, okay.
So I think it requires here a majority vote of the commission. So it's not like a unilateral decision. So that's why it's written that way. And I think it makes sense that way. In this particular case with Doug and I wasn't the chair of the commission when I was appointed to the subcommittee, and everybody voted on it. So technically, I guess initially I reported to Nicholas because he was chair of the commission. And Douglas and I did do that. So I hear you.
Yeah, from a more of a layman's perspective, the majority of the commission appoints, and because we actually have to have a vote, correct? To do that. But
Would you propose changes to this language?
the majority of the commission appoints, may appoint special committees as needed.
I think that's splitting hairs, but I don't know. Doug, do you have a discussion of it? It's kind of awkward to keep defending this. It could just say that the commission, by a majority vote, may appoint special subcommittees.
I like that. I think it's just clearer for the community at large. It's not a lawyer.
Okay,
I'm
what if
fine with that.
Are you okay with that?
Yeah.
The commission by a majority vote may appoint special subcommittees as needed. Okay,
Yeah, I think that was the only thing I had left because you addressed all of that.
okay. I assume you also looked at Ronnie's comments and didn't have do you have any further comments related to the things he said on how to ask that?
No, I went through, we had some duplicates and I went through, I'm
Yeah,
comfortable
okay.
with. And I hope he will be too.
Okay. All right. Well, if there's no further discussion and Nicholas is not here, let me check my phone and see if I heard something. I think I would entertain a motion. I haven't heard anything more from him.
Well, I'll make a motion to approve the bylaws and the addendum, as we discussed already.
Thank you. Without the inclusion of the letter.
Yes, without the inclusion of the letter.
Okay. Is there a second?
I'll second.
All those in favor? Do we need a roll call?
We don't need one, but
Okay.
We can take a roll call.
Yeah.
Okay. Commissioner Morse, Commissioner
In
Vatra.
favor.
Okay, sorry. Commissioner Vatra
yes.
and Chair Brothers
Yes,
passes.
thank you. Pleased to have that finished and behind us. Then we have another agenda item here. which are commissioner and staff and committee reports. And I believe the planning director has a report to provide.
If you hold on one second, I was going to share my screen.
Oh, okay, great.
Okay, yeah. So originally it didn't have a report out, so that's why on the agenda it said none, but we thought it'd be helpful to give a quick update around the draft safety element. So as a reminder, there was a joint town council and planning commission study session on June 10th, which was just last week. And so there was discussion around that. Comments were given and provided to staff and the consultants. In addition to that, there's a public review period that's open or has been open since May 29th and will go through June 30th. So this is really a period where we're looking to try to receive all of the comments, and partly why we had this joint study session in between was to build awareness around the draft safety element, which is posted online. And I wanted to talk through a little bit about how to provide comments. So the safety element has its own webpage online. And then within that webpage, there is a section where you can click on it where it says submit a comment. And there's a form where you can submit a comment online. And so on the screen is what that looks like, where you can fill out information. You can enter in your direct comment, or there's also an option to upload an attachment too, because I think there's been questions about how to submit comments. And so if you have comments that you've provided maybe in the PDF of the actual document or another way, you're welcome to upload an attachment there. If all else fails, you're welcome to drop off comments at town hall if you have a printed document, but really encourage you to submit comments through the form online. But of course, you're welcome to reach out to me or staff as needed. But this is just one way to make sure that we're really staying organized and on top of things that are coming in about the safety element. So for the timeline, there was a variety of things discussed at the last joint study session. And given the feedback that I got, so there's a slight updated timeline, don't quite have dates for the timeline, but the kind of sequencing of things has changed a little bit. So I just want to give an update on the sequencing. So when the public review period ends, we'll look at the comments, evaluate them. I think there's still an opportunity to reach out and meet with town committees to make sure we're understanding their comments, and if there's anything else that they'd like to provide. Then would update the draft document, then go back to Planning Commission for a study session and Town Council for a study session, and then send it for an external agency review. So then when we send it for review, we might also get comments from the agencies. Once we've kind of gone through that, then we would come back again to Planning Commission, Town Council for formal review and adoption. So we're kind of adding these 2 extra study sessions. So we have the joint study session, and then we'll still come before Planning Town Council. I'm still factoring in kind of the timeline and approach for this, so need to confirm a few things, but that's kind of what I outlined and what I gathered from the direction from council in that meeting. So just wanted to give you an update on that.
Are there any questions for the director? I have a question, and I know you can't answer this precisely, but if you've seen any comments so far, do you have even the roughest idea of when this might come back to the planning? 3 months, 5 months, 3 years, or not? I don't know what your process is going to be.
Hopefully sooner. I mean, I would imagine being able to look through, kind of consolidate comments to initial pass, because we want to come back to Planning Commission, Town Council when we have an idea if we're getting the sense that there might be more substantial changes, or we could come back and say, look, we were able to address most of the changes within this document. Here's the most recent version, and kind of get some more feedback on that. My hope would be by August, but it would push the overall adoption timeline out. That's kind of what I would see is, you know, the public comment period doesn't end until end of June, and then it would be kind of looking at July, and then maybe August, September, coming back for the study sessions.
Okay. That's very helpful. I know you can't really answer that question until you've seen all the comments.
Yes, I think that is another thing. So until we see the comments, then.
But I just kind of, that helps me a lot. Do you have a further report?
Not for this meeting, no.
Okay. Commissioner Morris, do you have any committee report or any other reports?
I just have a question on that. Is there any hard deadline to complete the safety elements? I know during the discussion, there was some state incentives for getting it done, or grants that we could get in order to do the implementation. So is there any deadline set by or encouraged by the state to complete this?
So that great question. There's no hard and fast deadline, state law to complete the safety element. However, state law, there's a government code section that does say that we have to update our safety element in conjunction with updating our housing element. And so now that the housing element is complete, it is timely to update the safety element as well. That said, we're not necessarily behind. As I understand it, most of the other jurisdictions in San Mateo County are still putting the finishing touches on their safety elements. But unlike the housing element where there are some hard and fast deadlines, there is not such a strict requirement in state law.
But is the money that could come in from the state to complete some of the projects contingent on having this completed?
That I don't know. I don't know. Darcy's shaking her head. So we're not aware of any grant funding that would be contingent on completion of the safety element.
And I'll just add on from an internal process standpoint, we do have a contract with a consultant to assist with this. And this was identified and approved last fall through town council. So being cognizant of staff time, consultant time, and having a more kind of formalized timeframe is helpful to actually do the work. So that's where we need to, depending on comments and feedback, really kind of, are there additional costs related to that? Or are there trade-offs with staff time that, you know, if there's additional work down the road, but we're trying to start other projects. So that's also just a consideration of really trying to have a certain timeline for the project and to have a end goal and date. Yeah, end date in mind.
I also have a question for you as part of your report before we go back to the rest of the commissioners. Welcome, Nicholas. We've had very little public comment and we've moved along and we're at item 6 on our agenda. But aren't you also working on some software activities for building and planning permit stuff? I thought that that was pretty close to an August deadline too. Am I incorrect about that?
Yes, we are working on the implementation of OpenGov, which is the permitting and licensing software. So really it's a complete overhaul of our permitting processes and workflows. And that is a major project, which I believe could use a lot more time and work. And so I was anticipating that July, August, and I feel like that date might push out a little bit. Obviously, we're not going to roll it out until, you know, we feel confident with how it's working. So that is another major project that anticipates taking a lot of staff time.
Part of my curiosity is we've had very few real estate matters come to this commission in the last few months, but they're moving forward without that software, right? You're permitting?
Yes, so everything is done manually via email. And so it is a different type of process. And moving forward with implementing the software will formalize the processes and it'll really help with staff time, I think from the customer service standpoint as well, because I think there'll just be much more clarity around things versus it's really manual via email. And we really just want to provide some better clarity on the permit process. But yeah, things are moving forward.
Okay, so our absence of matters doesn't mean they're stuck somewhere. Okay, any other comments, commissioner reports? Karen, Nicholas, glad to have you. The final agenda item then is the adoption of the minutes from April 15th. I didn't have any comments or corrections. Did anybody else have any? I appreciated that you had a little bit more detail to this than some of the past minutes. Any comments or a motion to approve? Yep. Thank you. I think we need to a motion in a second to approve minutes, don't we? I'll second it. All those in favor of adopting the minutes of the March 4th, 2026 meeting, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed? Hearing none, the minutes are adopted. And we can adjourn. We are adjourned until 7 o'clock when we have the joint meeting with the ASCC to discuss the Ford Park item.